And why do we push ourselves like this? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because we love God. We love God. We want to give Him our all, and we want to give Him our best. But we also have to remember that God loves us. And because of that love, He is willing to accept our offerings, even when it's not our all, not all the time, and even when it's not our best, not every day. He's willing to accept those offerings because He's more concerned about the offerer than He is about the offering. Now, can you imagine a bishop? Do we have any bishops here tonight? Can you imagine a bishop getting a tithing envelope from a child and then shaking it and saying, "Coins? What, you couldn't have worked a little harder? I mean, paid a few bills? Do you even know how hard this is for the clerks? Do you even know? See, I mean, a bishop would never say that. He doesn't care how many pennies are in that envelope. He cares what's going on in the heart of that child. He cares that that little kid is learning a wonderful habit. He cares that that kid has been taught a principle that will bless him throughout his entire life. That's what He cares about. He's not sitting there shaking envelopes. So why do we think God's doing that? Oh, you really sacrificed to get here tonight. And not as much as her, because she had to get a babysitter. And not as much as her, because she is the babysitter. I mean, why do we think God's up there comparing our sacrifices? Oh, you went on a mission. Well, you went on 2 missions. Well, you have 3 missions. And I mean, we think God's up there making these kind of comparisons. And that's when we need to be able to step back and realize that that's not how He works. He's not worried about how big the offering is. I mean, if that's how He measures it, then Mitt Romney wins. He pays more tithing than I do. So, but God's not looking at the amount of the sacrifice. He's looking at what that sacrifice does to Mitt Romney's heart, to my heart. He looks at how those sacrifices are changing us. So after all we can do doesn't necessarily mean exactly what I thought it did. Listen to what Elder Gerald Lund wrote about this. He says, "Remember that one of Satan's strategies, especially with good people, is to whisper in their ears, 'If you are not perfect, you are failing. So if you're not giving your all, then you're failing.' This is one of his most effective deceptions. We should recognize that God is pleased with every effort we make, no matter how faltering, to better ourselves. God is pleased with every effort we make, no matter how faltering, to better ourselves." See, we sometimes hear in the church, "Don't be mediocre, don't be mediocre." But in reality, how do you get to be anything beyond mediocre without passing through mediocrity on your way? How do you get to the top of a mountain without passing through the halfway point? And that's what the word actually means. The word mediocre comes from the Latin word mediocris, and it means halfway up the mountain. So when we feel a little mediocre in our discipleship, a little mediocre in our relationships, a little mediocre in our efforts at work or in our callings, when we feel that, let's just be a little more gentle on ourselves. Instead of saying, "Dang it, I'm not up at the top of the mountain," let's say, "Hey, at least I'm not at the bottom, refusing to try. I'm halfway up and I'm on my way to the top, and so I'm moving in the right direction." Now, if I were speaking to just the brethren, I'd probably sing a different song. But the sisters are here tonight. And sisters, you're the ones that we worry about. Because every one of you has to be at the top of the mountain, and you got to be there by 2 o'clock. With all your kids dressed in their very nice Sunday clothes. And that's why I'm saying,
cleaned.
And all cleaned, yeah. I just want to remind you that you can be a little more gentle with yourself. I tried to communicate that when I was teaching 6th grade. And I said to the little 6th graders, hey, nobody's born at the top of the mountain. Everybody has to go through mediocrity on his way to greatness. And some little girl said, I said, oh really? She says, yeah. What about Mozart? He was composing symphonies and oratorios at the age of 4. I said, honey, I don't care what he was doing at 4. At 2, he was mediocre. And we all have to pass through mediocrity. So let's be a little more gentle on ourselves and remember that God sees all a little differently than we see all. See, if we can remember that, I think it will help us a great deal.